My name is Lila Bennett. I am 31 years old. 3 months ago, I was dying in the back of an ambulance on Interstate 90 while my parents were sipping champagne on a luxury cruise. That is not exaggeration. That is not drama. That is fact. I remember the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. I remember the paramedic shouting numbers I did not understand. I remember the cold ceiling of the ambulance and the way the siren felt like it was drilling into my skull. "Ma'am, stay with me." "What's your blood type?" "AB negative," I whispered. His eyes changed. Panic. "We don't have that on board." "AB negative. Less than 1% of the population." I grabbed my cracked phone with shaking fingers and called my mother. She answered on the fourth ring. Laughter in the background. Music. The low blast of a ship horn. "Hi, sweetheart. We're just about to." "Mom," I gasped. "I've been in an accident. I'm bleeding. I need blood. Can you and Dad come? Please." Silence. Then a sigh. Irritated. Inconvenienced. "Lila, we're about to set sail. We're celebrating Ava's nomination. We can't just leave. You're strong. You'll figure it out." She hung up. 1 minute and 9 seconds. I called my father. "We're not coming back," he said flatly. "You're an adult. Handle it." Click. The paramedic leaned over me. "We're losing her." Those were the last words I heard before everything went black. My heart stopped twice at the hospital. Twice. A doctor screamed for AB negative blood. And then a stranger stepped forward. "I'm AB negative. Take mine." He donated 4 units. He stayed for 3 days while I was unconscious. He sat beside my bed and talked to me like I mattered. When I woke up, he was there. And when my parents finally walked into that hospital room, glowing from the Caribbean sun, they did not look horrified that I almost died. They looked horrified because they recognized the man who saved me. And in that moment, I realized something that would burn my entire life to the ground. But to understand why my mother chose a cruise over her bleeding daughter, you need to understand how long I had been disposable. This did not start on a highway. It started when I was 8 years old, standing in front of a Christmas tree with 2 presents while my sister had 12. When I was 8 years old, I learned what it meant to be the extra piece. Christmas morning smelled like cinnamon candles and pine needles. My little sister Ava was 5, bouncing in pink pajamas, shrieking with excitement as she ran toward the tree. There were piles of gifts. Towers of glossy paper and perfect bows. 12 boxes with her name on them. 2 with mine. I counted twice. Maybe I had missed some. I had not. Ava tore into a massive box and screamed when she saw the dollhouse inside. It was the expensive one. The kind with working lights and tiny furniture. I knew because I had circled it in a catalog once and my mother laughed. "Sweetheart, that's too extravagant." Apparently not. I opened my first gift. A second-hand math workbook. Someone else's name was written inside the cover in faded pencil. My second gift was a sweater. 2 sizes too big. Pale yellow. Not my color. I looked at my mother. "Why does Ava get more?" She gave me a tight smile. "She's younger. She needs more attention." My father did not look away from the television. But I heard him mutter, low enough that he thought I could not hear. "She looks more like him every year." I did not know who him was. But I knew it was not something good. That was the first time I felt it. Not just favoritism. Something colder. Something resentful. As we grew older, the difference widened like a crack in ice. When I was 18, I got into one of the best law schools in the country with a full tuition scholarship. I ran into the kitchen holding the acceptance letter, my hands shaking. I did it, I said. I just need help with living expenses. I can work, but I'll need some support. My father barely skimmed the letter. We can't afford it. Take out loans. That same year, they remodeled the entire kitchen because my mother wanted imported marble countertops. I took out loans. I worked 3 jobs. I survived on instant noodles and coffee. They visited Ava at her average state college 11 times in 1 semester. They did not attend my graduation. They were at one of Ava's pageants instead. I stood alone in a sea of families hugging their children, holding my diploma with numb hands. My phone buzzed once. A text from my mother. So proud of you both. Both. As if our achievements were interchangeable. As if my loneliness did not matter. When Ava got married, my parents spent more on her wedding flowers than I had in savings. A seaside venue. Designer dress. Ice sculptures. A fireworks finale. I paid for my own bridesmaid dress. $800. I smiled in the photos. I gave a speech about sisterhood. My father cried during his dance with her. He called her his greatest joy. He did not look at me once. By the time I turned 30, I had stopped expecting anything. On my birthday, I bought myself a cupcake and lit a single candle in my apartment. I waited for a call that never came. That night, I saw a photo on social media. Brunch with my favorites, Ava captioned it. My parents were in the picture. I was not. So when I called from that ambulance, bleeding and desperate, part of me already knew the answer. The cruise was not the betrayal. It was just the confirmation. But what I did not know, what I could not have imagined, was that the stranger who gave me his blood was not random. He was the reason my father could not look at me without resentment. And 3 days after I woke up, sitting in that hospital bed, I was about to find out why. When I woke up in the hospital, everything hurt. My ribs felt like glass shards grinding against each other. My head throbbed with a deep, splitting ache. There was a machine beside me beeping in steady rhythm, reminding me that I was still alive. And there was a man sitting in the chair next to my bed. He looked like he had not slept in days. Silver hair. Strong jaw. Blue eyes. Blue eyes exactly like mine. When he saw me move, he leaned forward so fast his chair scraped against the tile. You're awake, he said, and his voice cracked with relief. Thank God. My throat was raw. Who are you? He hesitated, like the answer was heavier than it should be. My name is Daniel Hayes. I donated blood for you. It took a second to process that. You're the reason I'm alive? He nodded once. Yes. For units, the nurse later told me. An enormous amount. He had insisted. Why? I whispered. He looked at me in a way no one ever had before. Like I was precious. Like I was fragile. Like I mattered. I heard your name over the intercom, he said quietly. Something in me just reacted. That made no sense. But before I could ask more, the door opened. My mother walked in first, perfectly styled hair and expensive sunglasses pushed onto her head. My father followed, tanned from the sun. Ava trailed behind them, scrolling on her phone. They looked like they had stepped out of a vacation advertisement. Then they saw him. My mother stopped mid-step. My father went completely still. The color drained from both their faces. Daniel stood slowly. Hello, Marissa, he said to my mother. Then to my father. Thomas. The air in the room shifted. Thick. Charged. I looked between them. You know each other? Silence. 8 seconds. I counted. My mother recovered first. Her voice turned bright and artificial. Oh, sweetheart, this is just an old acquaintance. From years ago. Daniel's jaw tightened. My father's voice was hard. You've done enough. You can leave. I'm not leaving, Daniel replied calmly. Not yet. My mother stepped closer to my bed and grabbed my hand. I pulled it away. What's going on? I demanded. Nothing, she snapped too quickly. He's always been dramatic. Daniel looked at me instead of them. When you're ready to know the truth, he said softly, call me. He placed a business card on the tray beside my bed. Then he walked out. My parents did not look at me. They stared at the door he had just exited, like ghosts had followed him. What truth? I asked. My father would not meet my eyes. My mother's smile was thin as paper. He's unstable, Lila. Don't let him confuse you. But something inside me had already shifted. Because when I looked at that card in my shaking hand, I noticed something I could not unsee. Daniel Hayes, MD. Retired emergency physician. And when I replayed his face in my mind, I saw it clearly. The same nose. The same chin. The same impossible shade of blue eyes. That night, after they left, I stared at myself in the hospital mirror. Then I picked up my phone. And I called the number on the card. He answered on the first ring. Layla. He said my name like he had been waiting years to say it out loud. My heart started pounding. The hospital ran a post-transfusion screening, I said. They detected a genetic relationship. Silence. Not confused silence. Not surprised silence. Heavy silence. How much? He asked quietly. First degree, I whispered. Parent level. I heard him exhale, like a man finally putting down something he had been carrying for decades. Can we meet? He asked. No, I said immediately. You tell me now. Another pause. Longer this time. Then he said it. I'm your biological father. The world did not explode. It did not shatter. It simply tilted. That's not funny. I'm not joking. My mouth went dry. My father is Thomas Bennett. No, he said gently. He raised you. But he is not your biological father. I felt like I was watching someone else's life unfold. My mother would have told me. She was pregnant with you when she married him, Daniel continued. We were together before that. Not long. She chose security. Status. His family's money. I was a second-year medical resident with debt and nothing else to offer. I stared at the ceiling. Did he know? I asked. Yes. That word cut deeper than everything else. They made a deal, Daniel said. I would sign away my parental rights. I would never contact you. In exchange, they would raise you as their own. A memory surfaced. My father muttering, she looks more like him every year. I swallowed hard. You just walked away? His voice broke. They paid me to. The words hit like a slap. How much? $50,000. For a second, I could not breathe. You sold me? I thought it was the right thing, he said quickly. I thought you would have a better life with them. Stability. Opportunity. A bitter laugh escaped me. You should see the opportunity one had. He went quiet. I watched from a distance, he said after a moment. Graduations. Award ceremonies. I stayed in the back. I told myself that staying away was protecting you. You watched? My voice cracked. You watched them ignore me? Yes. And did nothing? I was wrong. The room felt too small. Too tight. Why now? I demanded. Why break the deal? I heard your name over the hospital intercom, he said. They said you were coding. Something inside me broke. I couldn't stay away while you were dying. I closed my eyes. The image of him sitting beside my hospital bed for 3 days flashed through my mind. I have proof, he added quietly. The contract. The check. Emails your mother sent me over the years begging me to stay away. Send them. 5 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A scanned contract. Signed by my mother. Signed by Thomas. Signed by Daniel. Relinquishment of parental rights in exchange for payment. I scrolled further. An email from my mother dated years ago. Please do not contact her. It will destroy everything. Destroy everything. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I looked at my reflection in the dark hospital window. My whole life, I thought I was unlovable. Unwanted. A disappointment. But I was never the mistake. I was the secret. And secrets have a way of rotting everything around them. I picked up my phone again. This time, I called my mother. Did you sell my father for $50,000? I asked when she answered. She did not deny it. And that was the moment something inside me finally broke. But breaking was not the end. It was the beginning of war. My mother did not speak for several seconds. I could hear the faint sound of a television in the background. Dishes clinking. Normal life continuing like nothing had happened. Who told you? She asked finally. Her voice had changed. No warmth. No concern. Just calculation. Does it matter? I replied. I have the contract. Another pause. Then she sighed, the same tired sigh she used when I was a child asking too many questions. Lila, it was a very long time ago. So it's true. Yes. The word landed like a stone. You sold my father's rights for $50,000. We didn't sell you, she snapped quickly. Don't twist it like that. How should I twist it then? You don't understand the situation. Then explain it. Her tone hardened. You were conceived before your father and I got married. Thomas knew that. He agreed to raise you as his own, but only if Daniel disappeared completely. I leaned back against the hospital pillow, staring at the ceiling. And you agreed? Yes. Why? Silence again. Then she said the words that would echo in my head for months. Because you were a mistake. The room felt suddenly colder. Daniel was young, she continued. Broke. No future. Thomas had everything. A family name, a career already lined up, security. I had to make a practical choice. A practical choice, I repeated slowly. You had a stable childhood because of that choice. I laughed, but it sounded more like choking. Stable? You treated me like a houseguest who overstayed her welcome. That's not fair. Isn't it? I shot back. You ignored my graduations. You forgot my birthdays. You let Thomas treat me like I was some kind of burden. Her voice went quiet. You reminded him of Daniel. There it was. The truth. He agreed to raise you, she continued, but emotionally, it was difficult for him. Difficult. That word scraped against my ribs like broken glass. So you both punished me for existing. We fed you. We clothed you. We gave you a home. You gave me the bare minimum required by law. Her silence confirmed it. Why did you love Ava and not me? I asked quietly. She was planned, my mother said. The simplicity of it stunned me. Thomas and I chose to have her. She was ours. Completely ours. And I wasn't. You were complicated. I stared at the wall for a long time after that. 31 years of confusion suddenly made sense. The favoritism. The resentment. The distance. I was never the daughter they wanted. I was the reminder they could not erase. Why come to the hospital? I asked. What? You ignored me when I called from the ambulance. So why show up later? We didn't know it was that serious, she said quickly. I almost laughed. Mom, the paramedic was shouting that I was losing blood. Well, we were already on the cruise. Of course. The cruise. Ava's celebration. Her golden child moment. Here's the part you should understand, my mother continued, her voice suddenly cold. We fulfilled our responsibilities to you. We raised you. We paid for your childhood. We didn't owe you more than that. My chest tightened. You owed me honesty. No, she said. We owed you stability. I ended the call without another word. For 20 minutes, I sat there staring at the dark screen of my phone. Then the anger came. Not loud. Not explosive. Cold. Sharp. Precise. The kind of anger that lawyers use to destroy people in courtrooms. Because my mother had made one fatal mistake. She assumed I only wanted the truth. But the truth was just the beginning. What I really wanted now was justice. And the first step toward justice arrived the next morning in an email from my best friend, Claire. Subject line. You need to see this. Claire is not just my best friend. She is a forensic accountant with the kind of mind that treats financial records like crime scenes. When I opened her email, there were 12 attachments. Bank transfers. Trust documents. Signatures. My name. Call me immediately, her text said. I did. Lila, she said without preamble, did you ever access your grandfather's trust fund? I frowned. What trust fund? Silence. That's not funny. I'm not joking. She exhaled sharply. Your grandfather established a trust in your name when you were born. It was structured to transfer to you at 18. My stomach dropped. How much? Originally $1.3 million. The hospital room felt like it tilted again. That's impossible. It isn't. I found it in archived probate filings. But here's the problem. She paused. The trust was dissolved 12 years ago. My heart began to pound. Transferred, she corrected. Into a different beneficiary account. Whose? Another pause. Ava's. The word echoed in my head like a gunshot. That's not possible, I whispered. I never signed anything. Claire's voice turned cold. Oh, someone signed. She sent me the document while we were on the phone. I opened it. There was my name in neat cursive at the bottom. But it was not my handwriting. They forged it, I breathed. Yes, Claire said. And it gets worse. There were records of withdrawals over the years. Luxury car purchase. Down payment on a house. Business investments that failed within 18 months. Designer shopping sprees. $580,000 already gone. All from money that was legally mine. I felt strangely calm. When was the transfer executed? I asked. The week you left for college. 18 years old. Alone. Trusting. Who authorized it? Your mother initiated the paperwork. Your father co-signed. The bank officer who approved it has since retired. My ribs ached from the accident, but this pain was different. This one was personal. They didn't just lie about my father, I said slowly. They stole from me. Yes. And Ava knew? Claire hesitated. There are emails between your mother and Ava discussing the reallocation. She may claim she believed it was a gift. But she knew the origin. The golden child. The planned child. Funded by the unplanned one. I started to laugh. Not because it was funny. Because the pattern was almost artistic in its cruelty. You need to decide what you want to do, Claire said carefully. This is criminal. Identity theft. Fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty. And because the trust crossed state lines, possibly federal. How airtight is the evidence? Very good. There was silence on the line. Lila, she said softly, this is your family. I thought about the cruise. The ambulance. The way my mother said, you were complicated. They stopped being my family the moment they treated me like an obligation, I replied. I closed the hospital curtain and stared out at the faint outline of the city beyond. For 31 years, I tried to earn love that was never mine to win. Now I realized something powerful. I did not need their love. But they were going to answer for what they had done. Start drafting, I told Claire. For what? A civil lawsuit, I said calmly. And notify a criminal attorney. I want every option on the table. When I hung up, my phone buzzed again. A notification. Ava had posted a new photo. Brunch at sea with my favorite people. Heart emoji. No mention of her sister who had nearly died. I stared at the image for a long time. Then I saved it. Evidence, after all, comes in many forms. And I was done being the spare child. It was time to become the reckoning. I did not tell them about the lawsuit immediately. I wanted to see their faces first. 3 days after I was discharged, I invited my parents over to my apartment. I told them we needed to talk about family matters. My father arrived first. Perfect suit. Controlled expression. My mother followed, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Ava did not come. She's overwhelmed, my mother said. This whole situation has been very stressful for her. Of course it had. I did not offer them coffee. I did not offer them seats. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. I know about the trust, I said calmly. My father did not blink. What trust? The one Grandpa left me. $1.3 million. Accessible at 18. My mother's knuckles went white around her purse strap. I never received it, I continued. Because you transferred it into Ava's name. That's ridiculous, my father said smoothly. I clicked the first document. Transfer authorization form. My forged signature. Dated the week I left for college. My mother sat down slowly. You forged my name, I said. We managed family assets the way we saw fit, my father replied. It was not your asset to manage. It benefited the family, he shot back. Ava needed support for her ventures. And I didn't? You were always independent. The words were meant as praise. They landed like poison. You let me take out $200,000 in student loans, I said quietly. While my inheritance funded her luxury car. My mother's voice trembled. We were going to tell you eventually. When? After she spent all of it? Silence. I clicked to the next file. Bank statements. Withdrawals. Property records. She's already spent over $500,000, I said. On a house. On failed businesses. On lifestyle expenses. That money was given to her, my father snapped. It's hers. It was never yours to give. My mother finally spoke, her voice small. You never needed it, Lila. You're strong. You make good money. That sentence. That same sentence from the ambulance. You'll figure it out. You don't get to decide what I needed, I replied. My father stood up, jaw tight. What exactly are you planning to do? I met his eyes. I've hired a forensic accountant. We have documentation of fraud, identity theft, and breach of fiduciary duty. My mother gasped. You wouldn't, she whispered. I would. Lila, this would destroy the family, she said. There was no family to destroy. My father's voice dropped low. Dangerous. You sue us, and this becomes public. Headlines. Scandal. Your sister's career. She built her career on money that was stolen from me. That is not how it will look. It's exactly how it will look. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Not the quiet child. Not the overlooked daughter. But the attorney. The one who knows how to dismantle a case piece by piece. You're being emotional, he said finally. No, I replied. I'm being strategic. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We raised you. You tolerated me. She flinched. And when I was bleeding to death, I continued evenly, you told me to figure it out. That's not fair, she whispered. It's recorded, I said. Both of them froze. Yes, I added softly. Emergency services log calls. My father's composure cracked for half a second. What do you want? He demanded. I closed the laptop slowly. I want what was mine. With interest. And if we refuse? Then I file. Civilly and criminally. The room was silent. 31 years of imbalance had shifted in a single afternoon. For the first time in my life, they looked unsure of me. And for the first time in my life, I was not asking to be loved. I was demanding to be respected. When they left, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It was Ava. You need to stop. You're embarrassing all of us. I stared at the message. Then I typed back one sentence. You embarrassed yourselves the day you stole from me. Her response came instantly. You're overreacting. Mom said you've always been dramatic. I did not reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to Claire. Documentation matters. Because the next step was not going to be a warning. It was going to be a filing. And once I pulled that trigger, there would be no going back. December 9th. Cold. Gray. Fitting. I wore navy. Clean lines. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back. I wanted to look exactly what I was. Prepared. Claire met me outside the courthouse steps. She handed me the final draft of the complaint even though we both knew I had memorized it. Plaintiff, Lila Bennett. Defendants, Thomas Bennett, Marissa Bennett, Ava Bennett. Counts included fraud, identity theft, forgery, breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment. And because the trust had been federally structured, we had also referred documentation to the U.S. Attorney's Office. You ready? Claire asked. I thought about Christmas mornings. About empty graduation seats. About the ambulance. Yes. We filed at 9:17 a.m. By noon, my father had called 8 times. I did not answer. At 1:03 p.m., my mother left a voicemail. Layla, please. This is a mistake. We can handle this privately. Privately. Like everything else they buried. At 2:40 p.m., Ava called. I answered that one. What is wrong with you? She demanded immediately. No hello. No concern. What's wrong with me? I repeated calmly. You're suing Mom and Dad. Do you know what this will do to my brand? I actually laughed. Your brand? Yes. Sponsors are already asking questions. Do you know how hard I've worked? With my money? I asked softly. Silence. They gave it to me, she snapped. It was a gift. It was a trust in my name. You never needed it. The same script. I needed honesty, I said. And I needed the choice. You're blowing this out of proportion. $500,000 isn't proportion. It's theft. You're jealous, she said suddenly. The word stunned me. Of what? Of me. Of how Mom and Dad love me. You've always been jealous. I closed my eyes for a moment. No, I said quietly. I just finally stopped begging. She hung up. By evening, the local legal blog had picked up the filing. By the next morning, it was everywhere. Daughter sues parents over allegedly stolen trust fund. The article mentioned the accident. The cruise. The blood donor who turned out to be my biological father. That detail spread like wildfire. By afternoon, a larger outlet requested comment. I declined. I did not need to speak. The documents spoke for me. My father's attorney sent a formal response 48 hours later. They denied wrongdoing. Claimed the trust was restructured for family stability. Claimed I had benefited indirectly. Indirectly. I thought about my student loan balance. That night, Daniel came over with takeout and sat at my kitchen table. He looked tired, but steady. I never wanted this for you, he said quietly. I know. Are you sure about going public? They made it public the moment they forged my name. He nodded slowly. I should have fought for you back then, he murmured. You're fighting now, I replied. He looked at me then with something that felt like pride. Not obligation. Not tolerance. Pride. My phone buzzed again. A notification. Ava had posted a story. Family conflicts are painful. Praying for healing. She had added a soft filter. Subtle tears. Perfect lighting. The comments were mixed. Some supportive. Some brutal. Didn't you buy your house last year? Where did that money come from? The internet has a way of sniffing out blood. And this time, it was not mine. By the end of the week, the federal inquiry had officially opened. Identity theft across state lines carries weight. Real weight. My father called again that night. This time, I answered. You've made your point, he said, voice tight. Drop the criminal referral. We'll settle civilly. You don't get to negotiate from a position you stole. You're being vindictive. No, I said evenly. I'm being accountable. He was silent for a long time. Then he said something that told me everything. You were never supposed to find out. I felt something inside me go completely still. Exactly, I replied. And I hung up. The court date was set for mid-January. Discovery would begin immediately. Depositions. Financial tracing. Sworn testimony. For the first time in my life, the truth would not be whispered behind closed doors. It would be recorded. Under oath. And this time, no one was going to tell me to figure it out alone. Discovery was brutal. There is something almost surgical about the legal process. It strips emotion down to documentation. It takes every lie and forces it under fluorescent light. Depositions began 3 weeks after filing. I went first. 3 hours of questions from my parents' attorney. Calm. Polished. Designed to make me look unstable. Isn't it true, he began smoothly, that your parents provided you with housing, education support, and financial assistance throughout childhood? They provided legal minimum care, I replied evenly. Did they ever explicitly deny you food or shelter? No. So your claim is not abuse, but financial disagreement? It is fraud, I corrected. And identity theft. He shifted tactics. Is it possible you are emotionally reacting due to discovering the identity of your biological father? There it was. You mean the man who donated blood when my parents refused to leave a cruise? I asked calmly. No. I'm reacting to forged documents. He did not like that answer. Then it was my mother's turn. I was allowed to sit in the room. I will never forget the way she looked sitting there, right hand raised, swearing to tell the truth. Under oath, performance fades. Did you initiate the transfer of the trust fund? Claire asked directly. Yes, my mother said softly. Did you have legal authority to sign on behalf of your daughter? No. Did you sign her name? Long pause. Yes. The court reporter typed every word. Click. 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 Why? Claire asked. My mother's eyes flicked toward me. We believed it would benefit the family. Did you inform your daughter of the transfer? No. Did you intend to tell her? Silence. I don't know. My father's deposition was colder. Did you know the trust legally belonged to your daughter? Claire asked. Yes. And you approved the transfer? Yes. Why? He leaned back slightly. It was easier. Easier. That word echoed in my skull. Easier than what? Claire pressed. Easier than explaining the biological situation, he said flatly. So that was it. They moved the money because I was not really his. Because explaining my existence was inconvenient. Because loving me fully was complicated. The federal investigator attended both depositions silently. That detail did not go unnoticed. Ava's deposition came last. She arrived with a public relations consultant. Of course she did. Did you know the trust originated in your sister's name? Claire asked. I was told it was a gift, Ava replied. Did you ever question the timing of the transfer coinciding with her departure to college? No. Did you ever see documentation indicating it had previously been assigned to her? A pause. Yes. The room stilled. And you accepted the funds anyway? Yes. No tears this time. No filter. Just admission. By the end of the week, settlement talks began. Their attorney approached with an offer. Repayment of the remaining balance only. No interest. No admission of wrongdoing. No criminal cooperation. I declined. 2 days later, the offer doubled. Still no admission. Still no accountability. I declined again. Daniel called that night. You don't have to scorch the earth, he said gently. I'm not scorching it, I replied. I'm exposing it. He was quiet for a moment. I'm proud of you, he said. No one had ever said that to me without conditions. The pressure mounted quickly after that. Sponsors dropped Ava publicly. A financial ethics blog published excerpts from the deposition. The cruise audio surfaced in a leaked emergency record summary. Public sympathy shifted fast. My father called one final time before trial. What will it take? He asked. Full restitution, I said. With compound interest. Public acknowledgement. And cooperation with federal review. You would destroy us. You destroyed yourselves. The trial date remained set. January 15th. 4 weeks away. For the first time in 31 years, I was not the one shrinking to keep the peace. They were. And peace was no longer my goal. Justice was. But what happened in that courtroom went further than even I expected. January 15th arrived cold and merciless. The courthouse steps were crowded. Cameras. Reporters. Legal bloggers pretending they were analysts. Strangers whispering my name like I was a headline instead of a person. I wore charcoal gray this time. Structured. Sharp. Daniel walked beside me, steady and quiet. He did not speak to the press. He simply placed his hand at the small of my back and guided me forward. Inside the courtroom, my parents sat at the defense table. My mother looked fragile, pale, carefully styled to appear sympathetic. My father looked irritated. Ava was not there. Her social media that morning read, "Choosing peace today." The irony almost made me smile. The trial lasted 2 days. Claire presented the financial trail with ruthless clarity. Every transfer mapped. Every withdrawal documented. Every forged signature enlarged on a screen for the jury to see. The courtroom was silent when my mother's forged version of my name appeared. The curves were wrong. The pressure inconsistent. It was my name. But not my hand. Then came the trust agreement itself. A legal instrument clearly stating, beneficiary, Lila Bennett. Sole and exclusive. No ambiguity. No shared authority. Just theft. On the second afternoon, the judge allowed the emergency call record to be entered as contextual evidence of pattern and intent. The audio played. My voice came through weak and trembling. "Mom, I'm bleeding. I need you. Please." Then hers. "We're about to set sail. You'll figure it out." There is something devastating about hearing your worst moment amplified through courtroom speakers. A juror wiped her eyes. My father stared straight ahead. My mother could not look up. The defense attempted one final angle. They argued that the money had remained within the family unit. That I had not suffered material hardship. That this was an internal disagreement blown out of proportion. Claire's closing statement dismantled that narrative in under 10 minutes. "Family does not erase fiduciary responsibility," she said calmly. "Love does not excuse forgery. And blood does not override the law." Then it was my turn to speak. I stood slowly. For a second, I felt 8 years old again, holding a used workbook on Christmas morning. Then I remembered the ambulance. "I did not file this case because I hate my family," I said steadily. "I filed it because they believed I would never fight back. Because they assumed I would absorb the loss quietly. Because they thought being tolerated was enough." I looked at my parents directly. "You told me I was complicated. That I was independent. That I would figure it out. I did." The courtroom was silent. "And now you will." 4 hours later, the verdict came back. Liable on all civil counts. Full restitution of $1.3 million. $380,000 in compounded interest. $200,000 in punitive damages. Total judgment, $1.88 million. Additionally, the judge formally referred the documented identity theft to federal prosecution. He looked at my parents before delivering the final statement. "This court finds a profound breach of parental trust. You treated your daughter's inheritance as discretionary property. That is not just unethical. It is unlawful." The gavel struck. Case closed. My mother cried openly. My father did not. He simply stared at the table like a man who had finally realized control was gone. Outside, the cameras flashed again. This time, I did not stop. Daniel squeezed my hand. "You did it," he said softly. But the real aftermath did not hit until March. When the funds were liquidated. When Ava was forced to sell her house. When federal charges were filed. When my parents accepted plea agreements to avoid prison time. Probation. Permanent federal records. Reputations shattered. Ava's sponsorships vanished within weeks. Her followers dropped by nearly 80%. The golden child dimmed quickly without funding. They called. They emailed. They left messages. 23 missed calls in 1 week. I blocked them all. One night, a final message came through from Ava. I'm sorry. Can't we just move on? I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because some things are not detours. They are fractures. And fractures change the structure forever. By summer, the money was in my account. $1.88 million. I paid off my student loans the next morning. And then I did something they never expected. I did not buy a car. I did not upgrade my apartment. I started something that would carry my name and his. But that part of the story did not start in a courtroom. It started on a quiet Sunday, when I accidentally called Daniel something I had never called anyone before. It happened on a Sunday. No cameras. No courtrooms. No legal strategy. Just coffee and sunlight. Daniel and I had started meeting every weekend at a small cafe near the harbor. Nothing fancy. Wooden tables. Quiet music. The kind of place where nobody cared who you used to be. He was reading the paper. I was answering emails. For months, our conversations had been cautious. Careful. Circling the edges of something neither of us wanted to rush. He told me stories about medical school. About the night I was born and how he stood outside the hospital parking lot for an hour, just staring at the building, wondering if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. I thought staying away would protect you, he said once. It didn't, I replied gently. I know. But he never defended himself. Never blamed my mother. Never asked me to forgive him. He just showed up. Every Sunday. He asked about my cases. Remembered details. Sent me articles he thought I would like. Texted me on random Tuesdays just to say he hoped my day was calm. Consistency. That was new. That was foreign. That was everything. That morning, I stood up to grab another coffee. Hey, Dad, I called over my shoulder without thinking. Do you want more? The word hung in the air. Dad. I froze. He froze. For a split second, I considered pretending I had not said it. But I had. Slowly, he lowered the newspaper. His eyes were wet. Yes, he said quietly. I'd like that. There was no grand speech. No dramatic hug. Just a simple shift in gravity. Something that had been missing my entire life quietly sliding into place. Later that afternoon, we walked along the waterfront. I don't expect anything from you, he said carefully. Not the title. Not the relationship. You set the pace. I looked at him. You stayed when you didn't have to, I said. That counts. He nodded once, like that alone meant everything. With the settlement money, I paid off my loans first. $212,000 gone in a single transfer. For the first time since I was 18, I did not feel like I was dragging chains behind me. Then I moved $500,000 into a separate account. I met with a non-profit attorney and created a scholarship fund. The Bennett Hayes Initiative. For students entering law school without family support. For the invisible ones. The ones working 3 jobs. The ones sitting alone at graduation. We funded 8 full scholarships the first year. 8 students who would never have to beg their parents for living expenses while pretending everything was fine. When I told Daniel, he went quiet. That's beautiful, he said finally. No, I replied. It's necessary. Because I understood something now. The money mattered. But not as much as the message. They tried to erase me quietly. Instead, my name would be attached to opportunity. By autumn, my parents had stopped calling. The federal probation limited their travel. Their social circle thinned. Invitations disappeared. Ava moved back into their house. Her online presence shifted from luxury to vague self-improvement posts. I did not check often. I did not need to. One evening in October, I received a letter. Handwritten. From my mother. No legal language. No strategy. Just a single line that stood out. I did not know how to love what reminded me of my mistakes. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully. And placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness is complicated. It is not the same as reconciliation. I did not hate her anymore. But I did not need her either. That winter, Daniel invited me to see a property he had purchased quietly. A small lake house 3 hours away. It doesn't have to mean anything, he said. I just thought maybe we could build something that's ours. Ours. The word felt strange. But not wrong. We stood on the dock as snow fell lightly over the water. For the first time in my life, I did not feel like the extra piece. I felt chosen. And that was something no court could award. But the story did not quite end there. Because closure is rarely neat. And one final confrontation was waiting for me at a wedding I was never supposed to attend. I did not plan to see Ava again. Avoidance had been easy. Clean. Controlled. But life has a way of forcing unfinished conversations into the open. In early spring, I received an invitation. Not from my family. From a cousin. Small coastal wedding. Limited guests. Intimate ceremony. At the bottom, handwritten. I hope you'll come. And I hope it doesn't cause drama. That line alone told me everything. They would be there. For a full day, I debated. Then I realized something. I was no longer the one who needed to hide. So I went. The ceremony was held in a white chapel overlooking the ocean. Soft wind. Folding chairs. Neutral flowers. I arrived alone. Heads turned. Whispers followed. My mother saw me first. Her smile faltered mid-conversation. My father stiffened. And Ava. Ava looked stunned. She wore pale blue. Understated. No designer logos this time. No cameras. No filters. Just reality. I took a seat near the back. The ceremony was beautiful. Simple. Uncomplicated. The kind of family moment I used to ache for. At the reception, I stayed near the edges. Polite. Calm. Then Ava approached. Of course she did. You really came, she said, like it was an accusation. Yes. This is supposed to be about Emma, she added quietly. Not you. It is about Emma, I replied evenly. I'm not here for anything else. She crossed her arms. You've made everything so public. You mean the fraud? Her jaw tightened. You could have handled it privately. I tried, I said. You told me I was dramatic. Her eyes flickered. That was before I understood. Understood what? How serious it was. I held her gaze. You saw the trust documents years ago, Ava. She did not deny it. You knew the money started in my name. I thought it didn't matter, she said quietly. There it was again. Didn't matter. I was told you didn't want it, she continued. That you were independent. That you didn't need help. That was convenient for you. She flinched. I lost everything, she said suddenly. My house. My brand. My reputation. I felt no triumph. Only clarity. You built it on something stolen. You could have let it go. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I almost died on that highway. I called Mom because I thought that's what daughters do. And she chose a cruise. Ava swallowed hard. You think this is about money? I continued. It stopped being about money the moment she said I was a mistake. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know she said that. She did. The music inside shifted to something upbeat. Laughter rose from the dance floor. Life moving forward. I was always the favorite, Ava whispered. I didn't ask for that. No, I agreed. You benefited from it. She looked smaller than I remembered. Less polished. More human. I don't know how to fix this, she admitted. You don't, I said gently. Not with me. The truth was not cruel. It was honest. I don't hate you, I added. But I don't trust you either. She nodded slowly, like she finally understood the difference. I'm trying to be better, she said. I hope you are, I replied. Because I meant it. Resentment had once defined our dynamic. Now it simply exhausted me. As I turned to leave, she said one last thing. Daniel seems good to you. I paused. He is. She gave a small, almost sad smile. I'm glad someone showed up. So was I. I left before the first dance ended. The ocean air felt cool and clean against my skin. For years, I believed closure would feel dramatic. Explosive. It did not. It felt quiet. Like walking away without looking back. When I got home, there was a text waiting. From Daniel. How was it? I typed back 2 words. It's finished. And for the first time, I believed it. But healing is not just about ending something. It is about building what comes next. When I said it's finished, I did not mean the pain vanished. I meant the power shifted. For 31 years, my identity had been shaped by absence. By comparison. By being the extra chair at the table. Now, there was space where that weight used to sit. And space can be dangerous if you don't fill it with something intentional. So I built. The Bennett Hayes initiative expanded faster than I expected. Applications poured in from students who wrote essays that felt painfully familiar. I am the first in my family to pursue law. My parents don't believe in higher education. I work nights and study in my car. Invisible children grow into determined adults. We selected 12 new scholars that year. At the first reception, I stood at a podium in a modest university hall and looked out at faces that reminded me of my younger self. Nervous. Proud. Uncertain. You are not behind, I told them. You are not less than. And you are not difficult for wanting more. Daniel stood near the back, hands in his pockets, smiling quietly. Afterward, one of the students approached him. Are you her husband? She asked. He laughed softly. No, he said. I'm her father. He said it without hesitation. Without shame. Without fear. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel the need to correct anyone. Outside of the foundation, my life settled into something steady. Work remained intense, but it no longer felt like survival. It felt like choice. I moved into a slightly larger apartment with windows that faced the water. Nothing extravagant. Just light. On Sundays, Daniel and I alternated between the cafe and the lake house. The first time we spent a full weekend there, it snowed. We built a fire. Cooked simple food. Talked about things that had nothing to do with the past. At one point, he looked at me and said, I don't regret many things in my life. But I regret missing your childhood. I stared into the fire. I don't need you to regret it forever, I said. I just need you here now. He nodded once. I'm here. Consistency again. That word became the foundation of everything. My parents kept their distance after the wedding. Probation restrictions limited their movement. Their social life never recovered. Once, I saw my mother at a grocery store across town. We locked eyes. She looked older. Smaller. Not powerful. Just human. She did not approach. Neither did I. Forgiveness does not require proximity. Ava sent one final email months later. No defensiveness this time. No accusations. Just a simple line. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to understand why I never questioned anything. I did not respond. But I hope she meant it. Because cycles only break when someone decides to see them. One evening in late summer, Daniel and I sat on the dock at the lake house watching the sun dissolve into the water. You ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't been on shift that night? He asked quietly. I had. Often. I don't, I replied. He looked at me. Why? Because you were. That was enough. The accident could have ended everything. Instead, it exposed everything. And sometimes exposure is the only path to freedom. But there was one final truth I had to face. It had nothing to do with money. Or lawsuits. Or biology. It had to do with identity. And the realization that being unwanted once does not mean you are unworthy forever. For most of my life, I believed something was wrong with me. Children do that. When love feels conditional, they assume they are the condition. I spent years trying to earn what should have been freely given. Better grades. Better behavior. Better silence. I thought if I became impressive enough, lovable enough, successful enough, the imbalance would correct itself. It never did. Because the problem was never my effort. It was their capacity. That realization did not come all at once. It arrived slowly. In quiet Sunday coffees. In scholarship acceptance letters. In the simple, steady rhythm of someone texting me good morning without needing anything in return. 1 year after the accident, Daniel and I stood again by the water at the lake house. The air smelled like pine and cold stone. I used to think blood made a family, I said. He looked at me. And now? I think presence does. He nodded thoughtfully. You showed up, I continued. Not because you had to. Not because it was convenient. But because you chose to. He swallowed hard. I should have chosen sooner. Maybe, I said gently. But you chose when it mattered most. That night, I lay awake thinking about the ambulance. The sirens. The phone call that went unanswered. If my mother had said yes, if my father had turned the ship around, maybe none of this would have surfaced. Maybe the trust would have remained buried. Maybe Daniel would have stayed a stranger. Maybe I would still be trying to earn crumbs from a table that was never meant for me. Pain has a way of revealing what comfort conceals. The accident nearly ended my life. Instead, it exposed it. I no longer introduce myself as the daughter of Thomas and Marissa Bennett. I introduce myself as Lila Bennett Hayes. Not because of legal obligation. But because it reflects the truth. I am the woman who survived. The woman who sued. The woman who rebuilt. The Bennett Hayes Initiative now supports 20 students annually. 20 names. 20 futures. 20 people who will never have to wonder whether they are worth investing in. That is the legacy I choose. My parents still live in the same house. We do not speak. Not out of rage. Out of boundary. Ava occasionally appears in news feeds, quieter now. More reflective. I wish her growth. From afar. But my life no longer orbits theirs. On the anniversary of the accident, Daniel sent me a message. 1 year ago today, you scared me more than any emergency room ever did. I replied, 1 year ago today, you found me. That is how I choose to frame it. Not as abandonment. But as discovery. If you are listening to this and you feel invisible in your own family, hear this clearly. You are not hard to love. You are not a mistake. You are not too much or not enough. Sometimes you are simply surrounded by people who do not know how to love correctly. And sometimes the family you need is not the one that raised you. It is the one that shows up when you are bleeding. It is the one that stays for 72 hours beside your hospital bed. It is the one that answers the phone. Next Sunday, Daniel and I will sit at our usual cafe table. He will order black coffee. I will order tea. We will argue about headlines and laugh about nothing important. And when I stand up to get refills, I will say it without hesitation now. Dad, want more? He always does. And for the first time in my life, I am not the spare child. I am the chosen one. And that makes all the difference.